Good afternoon. I'm Janice Marie Johnson, the commissioned lay minister here at Community Church. And I welcome you on behalf of our ministry team, our staff, and all of our lay leaders. One moment. It is good to be together, both in person and online. Community Church is a multiracial, multicultural, multi-generational congregation with a vision and commitment to build a world grounded in equity and inclusion. With me today is Jerry Brown, our Director of Music, Darnell White, our musician in residence, our talented choir, the Omega dancers, Reverend Jude Geiger, our Minister for Community Engagement, and Reverend Peggy Clarke, our Senior Minister. Community Church is in transition. We've sold our church building and are in the process of finding another in this neighborhood. We are guests here at the Church of the Incarnation. And in the meantime, we're grateful to be guests here, even if this beautiful space isn't perfectly reflective of our theology. Children are always welcome during worship. Feel free to move around the space or move back and forth. Join programming happening in the loft. The sound of babies crying or children fidgeting is a beautiful part of being in community. Today is homecoming, the service that begins our church year. Please rise in body or spirit and let's sing together our opening hymn, Enter, Rejoice, and Come In.
Welcome. I hope this microphone situation is going to work out for us. Is it a little better now? All right. Well, it is homecoming, and it is so good to see you all here today. As you were coming in for me, the general sense of enter, rejoice, and come in was sort of all over. So let's begin with our call to worship. We gather here, travelers, homekeepers, people lifted in joy, and people weighted in sorrow. Grandparents, grandchildren, friends, lovers, and loners, souls rooted, spirits finding their way. We gather here bringing our hopes, concerns, talents, bringing our thirst to know and be known, our hunger to experience ourselves as part of something greater, our need to offer ourselves in the service of life. We gather here together, visitors, travelers, people curious and cautious, lovers of earth, muscles stretched by the labors of faith, hopeful for new ways of being together, mindful of how gently we must tread on a very fragile planet. We gather here in history, receivers of a legacy from our spiritual ancestors, members of this congregation who dreamed of a free church, a place where questions were as important as answers. We gather here in memory, holding all those who have gone before us. We gather here in fidelity, seeking to live respectfully, sustainably, joyfully. So come, let us worship together. Please rise in body or in spirit as we join together in our chalice lighting.
Please join me in our chalice lighting. We light this candle, the flame of our heritage. May it ignite hope in our lives, in our community, and in the world. Now, please join me in our unison affirmation. Unto the Church Universal, which is the depository of all ancient wisdom and the school of all modern thought, which recognizes in all prophets a harmony, in all scriptures a unity, and through all dispensations a continuity, which abjures all that separates and divides, and always magnifies humanity and peace, which seeks truth in freedom, justice in love, and individual discipline in social duty, and which shall make of all persons one beloved community. Unto this church and unto all its members, known and unknown throughout the world, we pledge the allegiance of our hands and hearts. Please join me in our land acknowledgement. We are gathered on the unceded land of the Lenape peoples. We acknowledge the Lenape community, their elders, both past and present, as well as future generations. This acknowledgement demonstrates our commitment to dismantle the ongoing legacies of settler colonialism.
We return from a summer filled with anticipation, with hope after days of record heat around the world, severe flooding, national division, earthquakes, and the transitional uncertainty about our own faith community. We return to this sacred space from many places, both physical and emotional, coming back to our spiritual home. For homecoming each year, we then bring ourselves back together, back into this room by calling to the directions, calling out to bring the pieces of ourselves back together. And so we're going to do this as we do every year. If you are able, please rise in body or in spirit. And we are going to turn and face the directions. And in between each call, we're going to sing number 389, Gathered Here. And so we will begin with the Spirit of the South, this way. Spirit of the South, land of heat, passion, and inspiration. Land of air whose hot breath emboldens us. We return from the South with hearts and spirits ignited and a craving for justice born of love.
Spirit of the West, land of setting sun, of autumn's whisper, we return from the West with waters of life, from creating waves and running rivers. We are ready to be a life-giving force as the summer sets.
Spirit of the North, place of quiet, of stillness, the cave and deep of earth, land of stone and mountain and fertile field, we return from the North with a healing silence that will carry us through a long winter.
Spirit of the East, land of the rising sun, land of air and the winds that blow across the earth. We return from the land of new beginnings as we start this year afresh. We are ready to become the dawn of new and brighter days.
And now, while we're all standing, let us greet our neighbors. As beautiful as all the hugging is, please find your way back to your seats.
I've never prayed with a handheld mic before. Please join with me in that spirit of prayer. In a moment, we'll all join together in a spirit of prayer, but we'll begin with a time of silence, knowing with all the wiggles and sneezes and coughs of the world, it's not about the perfection of silence, but the intention. Join with me now. Spirit of renewal, God of many names, source of love. Remind us this hour of all the places and people in our lives that give us reasons for gratitude, for the spaces of quiet awe, that teach us grace and beauty exists in this world without striving or doing, that simply being is a gift to be valued. And we are all valued. We are grateful for the touchstones in our lives that help us to feel whole when we feel lost or empty. Teach us to remember the joyous when we are lost in the painful, and remind us of the times we have felt lost when it's hard to be compassionate to another's difficulty. As the new school year begins, we reflect on another year past, another summer slipping away. May the warmth and the rest, wherever or however it was found, stay with us along with the memories. Help us to take a breath, to keep their fondness near to our hearts, and begin the work and the study of another year with gratitude and purpose. As a community coming together in strength, after a summer of work, of travels, of hobbies and projects, we recommit to our purpose in religious community of nurturing our spirits in community and caring for one another and ourselves and helping to heal the corners of the world in which we dwell. Amen, and blessed be. And I invite you to join us and our dancers and our choir in Blue Boat Home number 1064 in our teal hymnal. Feel free to rise in body. No? Okay, sorry. Don't feel ready to rise in spirit.
At some point in my life, I had two homes. I was living in two places and absolutely felt like I had two homes. I lived in my house. It was the house where I grew up. It was the room where I grew up. My parents were there. If nothing else, they were the people most familiar to me. The sounds from the neighborhood, I mean, that was the soundtrack of my whole life. The smell of fresh cut grass, the fireplace in the winter, the garlic that my father would cook all year, was all very comforting to me. Everything about being there felt like home. I also lived in an apartment in Boston where I was going to school. My clothes were there, my pictures were on the walls, my friends lived with me in the apartment. It's where I slept and studied, where I had parties, and otherwise lived my life most of the time. It was in that apartment that I helped a roommate confront her eating disorder. It was in that apartment that I stayed up all night with another roommate as she was mourning the loss of a boyfriend. Across the street, there was this bakery, and almost every day, the air in the neighborhood smelled like fresh baked bread. And it was in that bakery that they would rejoice in the fact that I would buy their bagels and bring them back to New York every few weeks. That was home. So to ensure my presence in New York, my mother offered to do my laundry. It was really very smart. I would bring she'd say, come, spend the weekend, I'll do the laundry. So every 2 or 3 weeks, I would pack up my laundry and I would drive to New York. And I would spend the weekend. I did it for years. She's still, really, like if she could get me to do that, she would still do that. And every time I did it, right, every time I drove from Boston to New York, I would get out of the car and I would think, I'm home. And then every time I packed that car up and I drove back to Boston, I'd get out of the car and think, I'm home. Home is where our bones rest. It's where our bodies get what they need. It's where our minds recharge. It's also where we play, where we entertain, where we laugh. And in my home, as maybe you can imagine, there's a lot of laughing. There's also spontaneous dancing. But home is more than that. It's more than a place. It's really that feeling of being home. It's not about necessarily a particular location. There are other places that feel deeply familiar. Places people are happy to see you. Places people are willing to be in relationship with you. Relationships so real, you become a better person for just having been in them. And in that way, community church might be home to you. It is becoming that for me. I'm entering my 5th year here, and I am going to admit that I'm not really warming up to this building, and yet, there's something here that feels like home. You make me a better person. You challenge me to do things I don't always know I can do. And I mean, let's admit, sometimes I can't do them. But I'm grateful for the challenge anyway. And I think that you do that with and for each other too. I mean, I know that you do. I've seen you do it. I've seen you hold each other up, love each other into health, welcome each other into your lives in ways that are healing and generative. Unitarian Universalism is a really difficult religion. We have this idea that inclusion leads to liberation. So we open our doors and our arms and our minds, which is a challenge and sometimes uncomfortable. We have this idea that we can create beloved community through intention and covenant, a process we get closer to but never will perfect. We have this idea that truth isn't permanent, that revelation continues to unfold, and that the most dangerous thing we can be is absolutely sure we're right, which can often be the opposite of what people are looking for in their religious homes, right? Places people can get to hear what they believe is true, and that you know it because God told you so. We don't have that here. We have this idea that the spiritual path is relational. That if there is a kingdom of God, we witness it only when we are in authentic relationship with each other. And we have this wild idea, this grand, life-altering, mind-boggling idea that healing and hope and liberation are all possible if we can learn to put love at the center of everything. As difficult a religion as this is, though, knowing the world is better for it. The world is better because we are here. The world is better because of the work we are doing and our ability to do it. So when I return to this building after a summer out of the pulpit, I admit this space doesn't feel like home, but it doesn't matter, at least not today, because you are my spiritual home. When I see you, when you grab my hand, when you wrap your arms around me, when I look out and see your faces, I know without question that this too is home. One of the things that happens in home is growth, the ways that we love each other to healing. And Jill and Megan have a ritual for us to begin our homecoming year.
I'd like to invite Esther up. Is Esther? There she is. So our religious education assistant, Megan Moncrief, is going to play us a beautiful song today entitled Lost Words Blessing. And in the spirit of a new church year ripe with possibilities, and to symbolize our collective commitment to working together to create beloved community, Esther and I will be coming around with planters and inviting everyone to take a few seeds from the cups, sprinkle them in the soil. I'm reminded of times when we used to sing, "All things are connected." There's a quote in that piece from the great Chief Seattle that we did not inherit the earth from our ancestors, but we are borrowing it from our children. So at this time, I'd like to invite Annabelle and Thorin forward. They're wildflowers, by the way, or wildflowers in the waiting. As we water these seeds, may we be reminded of a coming year, our commitment to grow, and may we remember that we are here at home whenever we are here together. So welcome home.
We are a 7-day church. It is our hope that wherever you are, and in whatever way you are comfortable engaging in the ministry and mission of this church, we've provided opportunities for you. Most of our programs are on our website and will be sent to your inbox in our weekly email if you subscribe. Next week, we are praying with our bodies by joining the Climate March to End Fossil Fuels ahead of the United Nations Climate Ambition Summit. We will meet for an interfaith invocation and ceremony starting at 11 a.m. on 53rd Street between Broadway and 7th Avenues. The march begins at 1 p.m. and will move down 52nd Street to 1st Avenue. It's most important to know that we will not be meeting here at all next Sunday. Everyone got that? Please join us after worship today in our congregational apartment at 10 Park Avenue for coffee, bagels, and fellowship. All are welcome. Our ushers are going to pass a plate for our collection now, and the money that we collect this afternoon, supports our music and dance programs, along with many other ministries. We are very grateful for your help.
Oh, freedom, oh, freedom, oh, freedom, freedom is calling.
Please join me in our chalice extinguishing. It is in your program. And you know, I know what's coming, so I'm going to say, please rise in body or in spirit. You're going to want to be standing for this postlude. And together we say, knowing how quickly the flame of truth may be extinguished, how easily the chalice of fellowship broken, let us be vigilant in faith, keep peace in our hearts, and make care for one another the watchword of our lives together. So our light goes out everywhere into the world. Our light goes out into the world, bringing healing and hope to all the places it's needed. Let us go in peace to love and serve the world and one another. It's good to be with you all.